In this video, I'm going to introduce operations on sets by talking about how to find the complement. And before I do that, I'm going to back up and just talk about the universal set and how we can draw a Venn diagram. So, because those two things are important to understand before we find the complement or do another operation. So the universal set is symbolized by an uppercase U, and it's the set of all potential elements under consideration for a specific situation. I know that that's really abstract. I'm going to do an example where we can see what this means in a second. So in a Venn diagram, the universal set is shown as a box around the sets and the elements under consideration. And then all of the sets that are considered in the box are shown as circles, and they're labeled. So let me draw you a picture. So we have a box. Let's say our U that we're considering, so that's the set of all the elements that we're considering. Let's say it's numbers 1 through 10. So this box, if I'm going to diagram this universal set, is going to need to contain numbers 1 through 10. But let's say, I have a couple of subsets that I want to diagram. So maybe one subset, we'll call it E, might be the even numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8. So maybe I draw a circle and I label it E. And I put the numbers 2, 4, 6, and 8. Maybe there's another set. Maybe I call it O, and those are all the odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Okay, if I wanted to draw that in the picture, I would draw it apart from E because they don't share, these circles don't share anything in common. The sets don't share anything in common. So I would write 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. If there were any numbers that were not included, I could put them in either of these sets, even and odd. I could put them on the outside of the box. In the end, all of the numbers 1 through 10 should be diagrammed somewhere inside the box, either in the circles or out, which they are. And usually when we have these Venn diagram pictures, you might even see like a little U labeled in the corner that just means, we're diagramming the universal set. So now that we know how to draw, this is just one example of a Venn diagram, let's talk about how to find the complement. So the complement of a set A is denoted A with an apostrophe. So anytime you see an apostrophe, just think complement. And it means all of the elements in the universal set that are not in set A. So I always tell students, when you see the apostrophe, just think of the word not. So every time you see it, just think to yourself, not A. That's just a really quick way to think of it. So for example, let's say I wanted to find E complement. That would be all of the numbers that are not in E. Well, I could look at the picture and use the picture to see, okay, well, it'd be everything except 2, 4, 6, and 8. So I'd list out 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. Or I could even look at the sets and just look at the sets themselves and look at what E is. And then this is where the universal set comes in handy, because you look at what E has, 2, 4, 6, 8, and then you have to look at the universal set and say, okay, what numbers does E not have? Well, E is missing a 1, it's missing a 3, a 5, a 7, and a 9, and so that's how I can find the complement. So having that universal set is really handy when doing a complement. So let me show you some just general pictures of how we could diagram a complement with a Venn diagram with a variety of different numbers of circles. So if we have a Venn diagram with one circle, I'm going to draw my box, and I've got my circle, and I'm going to label my circle A. If I wanted to shade a complement, that would be everything outside of A. So A complement would be all of this, any of the numbers or elements that would be outside of the circle. If I had two circles, let's call one A and the other could be something else. I'll call it B, it could be named anything, it doesn't matter. Then the important part here is just identifying where circle A is, which is right here, and then shading everything outside of it. So I'm going to shade all of this, and I'm going to shade this, and all of this. So any element that would be in this shaded region would be considered an A complement. And then if we have three circles, So we'll call this one A, and this one B, and this one C. Just like the last picture, I'm going to just look at A first and then say to myself, okay, I want to shade everything outside of that circle. So it really is helpful sometimes to use different colors in these examples so that you can really highlight what set you're looking at and the set that you're trying to shade around. And so this would be the complement of A, what it would look like visually if you had a Venn diagram with 3 circles. So now that we've seen the picture, let's do an example with actual sets. So in example 1, we have U that has elements V, W, X, Y, and Z, and then set A that has W, Y, and Z. Find a complement using the process above, and then draw the Venn diagram that illustrates the set. Okay, so I'm going to list out U, so V, W, X, Y, and Z, and then I'm going to look at A, and I'm going to find a complement by crossing off W, Y, and Z because I want to find out what's not in A. So if A is W, Y, and Z, then that means a complement is just going to be V and X. It's what's left. So A complement is what's not in A, so that would be V and X are not in A. And then I could also do this by looking at a picture. So I could draw my box, and I could draw circle A, and in it would be letters W, Y, and Z, and then outside of the box would be any of the other letters that are missing from the universal set. So we don't have V, so I'm going to put V there. W is already in circle A. X is not, so I'm going to put X outside the box. Y is in circle A, and then Z is in circle A. So this picture shows all of the universal set with W, Y, and Z in A. And so if I use shading, what I could do is I could just shade outside of A. Because that represents the complement, and you could see that letters V and X are the elements that are outside of A, so those represent the complement. So you've got 2 ways to do these types of problems. I would say pick which way resonates with you more. Some people really like the visual and just do the visual, and some people just like looking at the sets and do it that way. And either way is good. The nice thing is you have some options.